residential building brings an extremely sustainable landmark to the Canary Wharf estate in London. And now over to Alistair and Billy.
Newfoundland is the first residential building to be completed on the main Canary Wharf estate and is the tallest purpose-built to rent apartment building in London and the UK. It was important to set a high standard for this new Canary Wharf icon with its prominent position on the western edge of the estate. The building stands at a height of 218 metres, providing 56 residential floors of between 10 and 14 apartments, with a range of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom apartments. At the base of the building, 3 double height stories provide the grand entrance lobby and the management areas, a world-class restaurant on level 1, and the wide-ranging amenity space of Club Virtus on level 2. Thanks must go to Canary Wharf Group and their construction team. An exceptional thanks to WSP, Cameron Mazzami and Chris Godson, without whom this spectacular building would not have been built. A special mention also for Billy's partner, Richard Horden, who sadly passed away as the building was topping out in 2018. I'll now hand over to Billy Lee, Director and Project Lead for the building design architects, Horden Cherry Lee, for a more technical explanation of this project.
Thank you, Alistair. Here is a picture of Canary Wharf when it opened in 1802. The Newfoundland site is shown here. It was occupied by the grand building at the head of the middle dock you can see in the picture. The Port of London has been an international place of trade since the 1st century. And by 1900, it was receiving 7.5 million tons of cargo every year. However, with the arrival of larger ships that needed deeper water, the activity moved to be nearer the sea. So in the 60s, the docks were closed and soon became neglected. Alistair has shown us how well Canary Wharf has been regenerated into a successful commercial centre, but I would like to explain why Newfoundland has arrived and how it will now contribute to the future of Canary Wharf. As I explained, the site for Newfoundland is at the head of Middle Dock. It is also near the River Thames at the western end of Canary Wharf. The area is zoned for tall building development, but it had been overlooked for redevelopment because it was considered too small for offices. When it was discovered, it was joyfully named Newfoundland as a fun reference back to the Olympia and York days, the Canadian company that started the regeneration of Canary Wharf. When we started work in 2010, the site had planning permission for a 140-room hotel, but it was not making the most of the tall building zoning it benefited from. Building heights are really only governed by the aviation restrictions of the nearby city airport. Our challenge was to make the most of this newfound land and maximise its development potential for Canary Wharf. We looked at various options for the site and soon realised that a residential tower would be the most viable. It would make the best use of the footprint available and, importantly, deliver homes in the heart of a large employment area, helping to make Canary Wharf become a more socially sustainable community. We presented this to the London Planning Authority and became the first project to be granted a residential consent inside the designated employment area. The site came with constraints. The land was zoned for employment use. It's next to a listed dock. The site is compact and has an irregular shape. The western location is exposed to the elements, and 2 London Underground tunnels run directly below the site. These tunnels were a key constraint. They limited the structural capacity to go high, especially because the core needed to be positioned directly above them. This problem led us to the most innovative structural design, making the project possible and the architecture powerful. The site had opportunities too. It's a good location for residential, mixing the uses with the offices, making the best use of the land. The dock made a good setting for the building with a naturally generous public realm. The north-south site orientation is good for daylight. There are open views to the east and west. A clear service strategy was evident, and it has a natural south side entrance location. And of course, a landmark location next to the river with high visibility. We were very keen for the building to be centred on the end of the dock. The problem was that the tunnels for the Jubilee line are perfectly aligned under the site. As they converge toward the station, they create a V shape directly under our building, limiting options for ground piling in the narrowing space between the tunnels. The central core plan was the most efficient building layout, but this placed the core directly over the tunnels. We established the maximum piling capacity possible. This included working into the exclusion zones around the tunnels. We did this by agreeing to work restricted hours and carefully monitor any effect of the works. We then evaluated how to make best use of the ground bearing capacity near the tunnels and further away to make the tallest possible structure, being governed only by aviation heights. We knew the construction had to be relatively lightweight. We also had to find a way to transfer the building loads to the limited locations around the tunnels. Our solution was to design an external diagrid that is a naturally stable structure for such a slender building. This allowed us to transfer the forces away from the tunnels. This was clearly the most important innovation that allowed us to efficiently maximize the height of the building just inside the aviation restrictions. And it gave us a dynamic building structural solution with great aesthetic potential for the architecture. A traditional building with core transferring most of the load back to the ground would have been 30% lower, 30% heavier than the braced tube option we've adopted. It was not easy to align the building with the center of the dock or achieving the best plan shape. To enable construction, we needed to make careful services diversions and complex temporary works to protect the Grade 2 listed dock wall. The above ground structure is a hybrid steel and concrete frame, constructed in 8-story lifts that required close tolerances and skill to construct. The core rose quite rapidly, with the diagrid structure following on closely, providing structural stability as the tower progressed. Within the diagrid, we have used different types of construction to create the floor plates. On the intermediate floors between the nodes, we have a concrete post-tension solution, which allows for thin slabs and reducing the amount of reinforcement. At the node floors, we have a steel beam solution with precast units creating a deck between the beams. The node floors have been constructed using precast concrete slabs. This creates a platform from which to build the next 4 floors of the diagrid, but it also separates the work above from the construction of the intermediate floors below. The intermediate floors are formed of post-tension concrete. The thinner slabs help to reduce the total self-weight of the building. Although none of the techniques we have used on their own are unique, bringing them all together made for a very innovative solution, resulting in a hybrid building that is very efficient. It's 30% taller, 30% lighter, and 10% quicker to build than a conventional frame building. The diagrid concept is a seamless marriage of architecture and engineering. The constraints in the ground led us towards the braced tube concept. This was dimensionally tuned by the architectural needs to give the best floor plans and elevation designs. The dockside setting away from roads gives Newfoundland its own pleasant pedestrianised public realm. You can walk the length of the dock to the underground station to the building away from traffic. The east-west orientation of the building and its interior planning has maximised natural daylight and views without attracting excessive solar gain or heat loss. This design minimised the heating and cooling energy use requirements of the building as a whole, so systems required to heat and cool are less. The apartments all have openable windows, so can be naturally ventilated. In addition, each apartment has its own ventilation system with built-in heat recovery, so all residents can individually control and minimise their energy use. The building has been fire engineered with a careful selection of materials, fire protection, separation, detection and suppression, smoke clearance, protected means of escape, and state-of-the-art firefighting provisions should they ever be needed. The 24-hour residential use and rental tenure will help Canary Wharf to become a more socially balanced and economical, sustainable community. The cost of home owning in central locations is high, and renting is more affordable for many. The external architecture is a positive part of the internal environment. It's nice to know which building you live in, ideally a special one. Diagonal columns are present inside the apartments, like sculptures, sometimes framing views. The lean design has reduced the energy requirements of the building as a whole, so systems required to heat and cool are minimal. On-site power generation and renewable energy collection reduces the building's energy shipping needs. Whole home heat recovery systems are in every apartment, so enabling all residents to individually minimize energy use. The apartments have openable windows, so can be naturally ventilated. There are excellent public transport connections with Crossrail and underground stations within 5 minutes walking distance, and there are 808 bicycle spaces in the building. All apartments are generously sized to include an element of amenity space. The party walls are non-structural, so the building is open to reconfiguration at any time in the future. There are only 4 internal columns that are all near the core ends. The clear span structure allows for large open plan layouts with generous areas of uninterrupted glazing. The building includes open to all gym and exercise areas, residence lounge with group dining facilities, an external terrace, meeting rooms, supervised childcare with inside and outside play spaces. The diagrid architecture again plays a role in animating these spaces. Newfoundland has a landmark location at the western end of Canary Wharf. It is now a highly visible building seen from all over London. It's a great achievement for everyone concerned to have placed this wonderful building on the London skyline. Newfoundland is a sculpture for the city. Visually, it works on many scales. The building form and cladding are both designed to continually catch the sunlight as it moves around the building. The diamond plan form works on a large scale by allowing facet by facet to illuminate as the sun moves. On a smaller scale, the profile diagrid cladding gives the building a subtle texture and sometimes sparkles. The diagrid concept gives the building a highly visible long-range identity and texture. At close range, the attention to detail and high-quality materials make it a fine building to move around, enter, touch, and use. The site planning is a direct response to the listed dock setting and highly visible riverside location. Most importantly, like the historic buildings, it has a strong axial arrangement with the dock. We centered the building on the middle of Middle Dock to give it a strong classical setting over the water. This is also placed on the direct axis of the Canary Wharf Underground station entrance. The open quality of the dock setting gave us space for a highly visible landmark building. The site is at the western end of Canary Wharf near the River Thames, with a long range visibility from the west, city and west end of London. We evaluated various building forms before getting to the diamond plan that gave us the iconic building form. The diamond shape has the best even floor depth distribution around the core for planning the apartments. It has the best environmental arrangement, making the most of daylight from the east and west aspects. These aspects also have the best views. This orientation also reduces directly facing north or south aspects, avoiding undue solar gain or heat loss. The building's diamond plan gives a spacious relationship to the nearby rectilinear office buildings. The angled facades give the building elbow room against its neighbours and glimpse views between them. It has a high perimeter ratio, lots of frontage, which is good for residential planning. The diamond plan also worked well with the braced tube structural concept, as the shallower corner angles allow a more efficient transfer of the forces around the frame. Radial planning gives apartments that are opening out to light and views. They are generously sized with internal amenity space, all have great light and view. The structural efficiency offers future flexibility for reconfiguration. Newfoundland has a modern but classical tripartite design. It has clearly defined zones, a base, middle and top, reflecting its different functions. It is a tall and slender structure with a clearly defined silhouette. The building has elegance and grandeur. The base. Here, the above ground transfer structure opens out, making for an inviting entrance. This part of the building is set back and accommodates commune areas over 3 levels. Ground floor has the residential entrance, lobby, waiting areas, post, delivery, lift lobby, and back of house facilities. On the first floor, there is a public restaurant. On the second floor, There are residence facilities, including a lounge, private group dining, meeting spaces, fitness areas, internal and external children's play areas. The lobby has 2 entrances, one at each end, with open frontage over the dock. A central lift core is also centred on the dock. The desk continues the diamond concept with its marble veining, albeit in a natural way. The middle, here sits the residential accommodation within the regular diagrid part of the building. 56 residential floors, providing 636 apartments with a GEA 76,000 square metres. There are 4 passenger lifts and a separate goods lift. The passenger lifts travel at 6 meters a second. At the top of the building, there is a screened plant area. Among many things up there, there is a damper housing. First, we thought that Newfoundland would be the first building in the UK to make use of active building dampening. However, we measured the stiffness of the building during construction and found that it was stronger than anticipated, so the damper is not now required. But it's nice to know it's there if conditions change. Newfoundland is a new high-quality landmark for London. Its complementary design brings a new building type and aesthetic to Canary Wharf. It will make Canary Wharf a special place to live and work.
The land of Canary Wharf has always been zoned as a commercial district, and Newfoundland was the first development to challenge and change this. The emergence of residential on the Canary Wharf estate truly brings a sustainable 15-minute city. Newfoundland will provide a home to its first residents in June 2021 and allow the newest occupants of the Canary Wharf estate to rent an icon and own the skyline.
Thank you, Alistair. I would like to thank everybody for running this competition. So much of our sector's work goes unseen. So this is a great forum for everyone to explain the hard work that goes into making these wonderful projects. Special thanks to Sir George and Canary Wharf for allowing us to make Newfoundland a reality. It's been an amazing project to design and to deliver. Everybody involved has given a tremendous level of enthusiasm. Like many, the project has not always been easy, but I hope you'll agree that the team have together made a wonderful project in Newfoundland. Cameron Mazami and Chris Gosden's engineering has been instrumental. So is the support of my partners, Richard Horden and Stephen Cherry, and the office associate, Angel Hugo. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alistair and Billy. Next, we have One Barangaroo, located in Sydney. A striking hotel, casino, residential and retail resort building, which sits in elegant counterpoint to the new Roger Sterling Harbour office towers and the emerging Renzo Piano residential buildings at the newly created precinct of Barangaroo.